Welcome to episode 11 of the Shiny Things Improv podcast. I'm your host, Aaron Balakchin, and this is a place for me to chat to my favourite improvisers about the craft that we love. Today's guest is Jen Littlewood, one of the Free Association's experienced teachers, as well as a coach to one of their House Herald teams, and someone I get the privilege of playing with regularly in our team, Nana, one of the FA's former House Herald teams. Jen trained at Second City and IO under the legendary Dave Pasquesi, yes, of TJ and Dave, before she moved back to the UK to join the Free Association. After 17 years of improv, she's now teaching multiple levels and has some wonderful insights into the art. Here's a taste of what's coming up.
I'm always saying to people, I think, to simplify and take away. And I think that goes for game as well. Always take care of yourself. Always give yourself something to work with. Because if I take care of myself and you take care of yourself, then we're golden. We don't need to worry about each other. This is the most pretentious I'm going to sound, she says. I'll say something more pretentious later. The audience loses faith.
Yeah.
You have to win them back. You feel like shit. Your scene partner is like, I was trusting you and you've given me this. Everyone on the back line thinks, well, let's give them 4 more minutes to figure it out. And it's a terrible time for everybody.
Yeah.
But the audience thinks you're an absolute genius because you remembered something from 3 minutes ago. So it's a real win-win. So that would be another bit of advice that I would give. If I could put the fear into people the way that David Pasquesi put the fear into me of never wanting to disappoint him, that would be a well-lived life. God, this is pretentious, Aaron.
Jen Littlewood, welcome to the show.
Hello. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm all right, thanks. I'm sorry, I find this so deeply weird, but it's okay.
Yes, we perform together quite regularly, don't we?
Yes, we do. A lovely time.
Yes, but I feel very privileged to be having this opportunity to get nerdy about improv with you.
Stop it. It's great.
You've been improvising since 2007.
Don't say that like you've done research. You didn't just ask me when I started improvising before we started recording. Yes, I have been improvising since 2007, and I will caveat it with long breaks in between sessions.
How did it all start?
I wanted to be a writer for the Colbert Report. I was obsessed with the Colbert Report as a young, old teen. And so I Googled where all of his writers came from, and all of his writers came from Second City in Chicago. So I thought, well, that's easy. I'll just go to Second City in Chicago, and then I will be a Colbert Report writer, not taking into account that I lived in Yorkshire, in England, and not in New York. So I booked onto a 2-week summer intensive at Second City, Chicago, in the summer of 2007. And it was a improv sketch writing 2-week course. And I went over there and stayed in a hostel and did 2 weeks of sketch and improv training with people I'm still good friends with. Well, no, that's a lie. One person I'm still good friends with, and other people that I'm still friends with on Facebook, and message every now and again. And if I'm in LA or they're in London, we see each other for a polite exchange. And I just loved it and started, and everybody that was in the class was sort of Americans who had been doing like college improv and had knew so much more than me. And then there were 2 middle-aged women who were a couple who'd come from Texas, and they'd done a road trip up visiting haunted motels. And so we were a really great group. And myself, Sarah and Becky were the 3 cool girls. And then there were 4 guys from college who were there, and they were going on to do the IO intensive straight afterwards. And we just soaked up everything. And I became obsessed with it. And we went to see all of the, every night we saw a show. We did improv and writing all day and went to see shows all night. And that is all we did for 2 solid weeks. And then I thought I would like to do that more. And so when I got back to England, I then went and booked a UCB intensive. So later that summer, I went back and went to New York and did a UCB intensive where my teachers were Zach Woods and Bobby Moynihan. And the week that we had Bobby Moynihan, he was having his SNL audition, and he did his audition for us to like test it on us. So I watched UCB shows all week, 2 weeks. And then I came back from America and immediately decided that I knew everything about improv from my 4 weeks of training. And so I set up a improv society at university, Nottingham University. It was called, what was it called? I have no idea what it was called. It was called, the acronym was SIN. It was like Society of Improv Nottingham or something like that. So I set that up and started teaching improv as if I knew what I was talking about for a year. And then I kept on thinking about how I would get back. And then I didn't do, like, there was no training. It was in Nottingham. There was nothing else there. And then when I finished my postgraduate, I was in London, and I applied for an internship at Second City in Chicago to do after I graduated. Because it was 2009. It was their 50th anniversary. So they were doing a big 50th anniversary show. They were looking for additional interns. So I applied for that and got it. And submitted my master's dissertation on Monday, went for a visa interview on Tuesday, and then flew to Chicago on Friday. And then, so I was an intern at Second City for 4 days a week. And then I decided that I was going to be here for sort of 5 months, and that was going to be it. So I was going to do everything possible. So I then got an internship at the Annoyance Theatre. So I did Wednesdays at the Annoyance, every other day at Second City. I took classes at Second City, Annoyance, and IO all at the same time. And then they were at the weekends. And then I went to see shows every night. Because I was like, I have 5 months and that's it. And then I have to go back to England in 2010 and there's nothing to do. So I just did everything. I then got extended for another 6 months. So but then I was like, well, it's only 6 months, so I have to keep doing the same thing. So I did the same thing. So for about a year in Chicago, I went to classes, 3 classes a week, 5 shows a week for a year. And that was it. And then I moved to Toronto and worked at Second City in Toronto, which was better and easier to get a visa for. And sort of did the same thing there. Because I was always under the impression that I would be sent home any time. So I just did everything. And became obsessed with it. And then I eventually was sent home. And so when I was actually, the Chicago part's the interesting part, really, not the Toronto part. Sorry, Toronto. But the Chicago part's the interesting part. So that was, so then I had teachers who were incredible. So I had Craig Euler, who I think is the best level 1 teacher of all time. And I copy everything he has done in my teaching. He's aggressive enthusiasm, as I would describe it. He would yell at you in the most positive way, and I just do that. He was great. Susan Messing was great. McNapier was great. Bill Arnett, Paul Gondry, Noah Gregoropoulos. So everybody there, Matt Hovde. So lots and lots of people who were active at the time and on stage as well, doing that. And I would go to, Monday nights I went to Armando. Tuesday nights I went to Chicagoland at the Annoyance. Wednesday nights I would go to the 3 free Harold shows at IO and then go to TJ and Dave afterwards. Thursday was whatever show existed, and then Friday, Saturday, Sunday were improv class. So that was it for a year. And that was that. And then apologies to every other school and teacher I've ever had, I've learnt nothing since then. I don't know that I've changed at all in anything I do or my approach. I feel like one of those people who was very sort of like hipsters when somebody likes the band that they've liked for ages. When people now in England are like, oh God, have you seen TJ and Dave? I was like, mate, come on. I've been telling you to slow down for about 10 years and now you like it. But yeah, that was like all of my formative experience. And I've not taken another note since. But yeah, then I went to, so that was the bulk of my learning. And that was a very different style from what the FA does here. I think that's the main theatre I am at here in London. Chicago, that 2007 to 2012 Chicago style improv was not game based as a concept. It was more want based and character based and relationship based, and games were simply patterns in scenes, and you could have multiple patterns. You didn't have to have one singular game of the scene. So it wasn't as restrictive as I find game to be, and it allowed you to have characters change and react differently and develop over a scene, rather than something funny happens, copy repeat, rest, copy, sweep. And that is the thing that I've always found most interesting. So that's, I think, still what I do in scenes, or try to do. And that was sort of repeated in Toronto. When I got to Toronto, they weren't very game based. We were still doing heralds and forms and things like that we do here, but it was less game based. It was more character based. It was more narrative based a little bit. We did a different style of herald in that once you did your first 3 beats, your second beats, anyone could start. So it didn't have to be the same 2 players. It could be anyone from the scene, anyone from the show, anyone in the group could do anything they wanted with those characters. Everyone owned the characters. Everyone owned each scene. And so it was very democratic. But it also meant that you had to get in. So it gave you a sense of ownership and a sense of confidence that you weren't guaranteed a scene if you'd stepped out in the first beats. You had to fight for it. So that was sort of a more Toronto-based style, I think. And the theatres that I did in Toronto were Second City. When I started, there was a place called the Impatient Theatre. They were sort of the IO, UCB, Harold place. And then a place called Bad Dog Theatre, which was everything. Their main form was short form, comedy sports, and then they would have narrative, quite similar to FA. I was like narrative, sort of genre-based shows, heralds, everything you want, and then just montage shows and things like that. God, this is so long, Aram. And then I came back to London, then I did FA, and then I did FA, and now I perform at FA and teach at FA and coach at FA, but they've taught me nothing. That's a lie. Yeah, so they're the closest to what I've been doing before, so I've found my home there.
We'll come back to the game stuff, but tell me, what is it about improv that stuck? Because you originally started wanting to write,
yeah,
but you've ended up actually being quite a rare thing, which is a really experienced improviser who only does improv and doesn't have other forms of performing or writing. What is it about improv that captured you so wholly?
I just determined that I couldn't write. I thought I could, and then when I started doing it, I realized that I didn't think I would ever make a career of it. And I think I took to improv quite naturally. I think it feeds into my traits, the style I do as well. I don't think I don't enjoy jokes, and I don't enjoy bits. And writing, you have to write jokes and do bits and sketches and things like that. And that I determined was something that didn't necessarily... Same with stand-up. You have to sort of believe that you're funny and write jokes. And I'm not very good at jokes. And I don't enjoy them enough to try and get better at them. I don't have the interest in it to try and do that. And yeah, I don't do any other type of performance. I just do improv, and I don't have any real interest. I was in a couple of plays, but with 7 lines. And I have a job, a full-time job, that I do. So I don't really have the desire to do it, but improv feeds something in me that is validation and attention and praise at something I'm okay at and don't need to put a lot of effort into. I can just show up and do a show because I don't have the time to like do things. So I think that is a long-winded way of saying it. For some reason, it just doesn't interest me. Improv is the thing I like, so I have no desire to pursue other things that I don't like as much. That's my answer to your question.
Yeah, that's great. When I perform with you, when I've been in scenes with you, I'm always struck how you never seem to panic. Whatever is or isn't happening in the scene, or if it doesn't feel like it's going anywhere, you never seem to panic. You're always just calm and you're always just getting on with the scene. And that's something I've always admired and really enjoyed playing with you because it calms me down in a scene. Where does that come from?
That comes from David Pasquesi, who is my favourite improviser. He would often say, as soon as the audience feels you panic or doesn't believe in you, you've lost them. So on the surface, you must never appear to not know what you're doing. Improv for an audience is already a scary enough prospect for them to then add on worrying about whether or not you're going to be funny or good at it. And so the biggest performance you have to do in improv is convincing the audience that they are safe and convincing your teammates that they are safe. And I think that is something that I've always had in my head. Whenever I do a show, this is now my weird thing. Whenever I do a show, I imagine that Dave Pasquesi is in the audience and that I am trying to make him happy. And maybe not even happy, but maybe not upset. And I think that is sort of the thing that I go back to over. Like, I'm not calm. The other thing as well that he sort of said is that...
Sorry to interrupt, but I've got something super exciting I wanted to tell you about. No, it's not a sponsor, maybe one day. It's that on April 24th, my improv team Fluff are launching a new night, Fluff's Big Friday, happening monthly at the Libra Theatre in Camden, London. We'll be hosting amazing guest teams and running a free workshop before the show. It's going to be super fun. You can follow FluffProv on Instagram for more updates. Now, back to the podcast.
And I think I feel this way as well. Maybe you feel this way. When you're improvising, my brain is working solely on the scene and also not doing anything. And so there's a weird level of like switching completely off from anything else that is happening. So any of those external emotions and fears, and only focusing on the character and what the character would do and what the character would say. And so my brain is entirely focused on that character. And if that character isn't, this is the most pretentious I'm going to sound, she says. I'll say something more pretentious later. So if I'm fully in the character, I'm only paying attention to their emotions rather than my emotions. And the character doesn't know that the scene is going badly. The character is just being in this reality. God, this is pretentious, Aaron. And so then the panic doesn't happen because I'm not... Wait, I'm going to do more. I'm not me on stage. So there's that. And then also, Mick Napier said a thing that is, no matter how good an improv show you have or how bad an improv show you have, it will only happen once. So who cares? And I think that's very healthy because you can have an amazing show and then think, I'm an amazing improviser. I'm so good. This is the best. I was the funniest in that show. Don't care what people say. They rank themselves against the other performers, don't they, Aaron?
Absolutely.
Yes. They rank themselves against the other performers and they want to be the funniest. And if that happens, then it's the best thing in the world. The next performance, when you're not the funniest, is the worst thing in the world. but any show only happens once. And so that's what I do to be calm.
That's great. Let's come back to game and pattern and character. You obviously, your formative improv years were not really focused on game in the way that the FA teach. And you're now here teaching at the FA, which is a much more UCB style game focused approach. I think you can kind of fit game into pattern. It's all sort of describing the same thing, but how do you feel those approaches different? How does it affect the way people play?
I'm always saying to people, I think, to simplify and take away. And I think that goes for game as well. So game, I think organic game is a lot easier to find because that truly is just a pattern of behavior, and there's a lot less pressure on organic scene work in game because it is just like, oh, that was fun, that's a fun thing for my character, I'll just keep doing it. And with premise, which is what the FA teaches quite a lot of, it becomes a lot harder, and the pressure on game becomes a lot harder. I was listening to somebody, again, it's kind of thing of like, it's absolutely fine and lovely for you if you enjoy it. It doesn't interest me. But in teaching it, I think we have got kind of wrapped up in this thing that your brain needs to, you need your brain to write the scene, and we're teaching people to be writers, which I think is, again, fine. But it's very difficult to say that to somebody who's been improvising for 3 months. Now you have to write out your skills, and I think it puts people in their head a lot. So whenever I'm teaching game or approaching game and people are sort of stressed about it and premise game, I try to guide them towards the unusual point of view rather than unusual behavior. Because the unusual behavior is a result of an unusual point of view. And if you can hone in on your unusual point of view, then you can expand your game and make your character more interesting and give yourself more to play with. And the examples I always use are Larry David in Curb Your Enthusiasm. He has a unique point of view that results in multiple unique behaviors that you can map across. So you can always say, oh, he's reacting as Larry David would. And then also George of the Jungle is my other touchstone. Because similarly, George has been, for those who've not seen George of the Jungle, George lives in the jungle and is brought to New York City and has to exist in New York City, but he's been raised in the jungle by a talking gorilla played by John Cleese. And so George in New York is operating only as George knows from his point of view. And so all of his actions, all of his unusual behaviors result from his unusual point of view. So they're my two. I find pretty much, if you've not seen Curb Your Enthusiasm, you've seen George of the Jungle, and vice versa. So they're my two teaching tools. But it's about simplifying, I think. It's about bringing that base point of view and letting games be less constructed and less mapped out in advance. And so if you're pulling from a monologue premise or an opening, I disagree with the fact that you need to have a fully formed game or a fully formed premise or a fully formed initiation to start, and I think that is what trips up people a lot. We'll see if I still have a job teaching after this, Aaron. I have to go elsewhere. But I don't veer off curriculum at all, or I don't veer off. Just Alex, if you're listening, I don't veer off curriculum. I don't say anything is wrong. I think I'm just providing a dumbed down version for people who are struggling. For the people who aren't struggling, go ahead and write your most complicated premise based on one thought in a monologue that you heard 3 minutes ago. But for me, I need basic stuff, and that's why I think all openings and monologues are vital. And if they're done poorly, then you're fucked. Are we allowed to swear?
Absolutely.
Okay, great. Then
away.
you're absolutely fucked, mate. Because you have to pull from it, and you've got nothing. And I always think about one scene that I've done that I always use as an example, not to talk about how good I am, but to show. We were doing a show, and Ellie, who's on Nana, said that she thought in the opening that she thought that she would be able to charm a kidnapper into letting her free. It was her opinion. And so I just did a scene where I was a kidnapper trying not to fall in love with my hostage. And that was it. And then you just find it in the scene. And I think that's the most interesting place to go. I don't know if that answered your question at all.
No, it did. It did.
Okay.
And I also think from what Alex said when he was on the podcast.
I listened to it before I did
Yeah, I think he's not. I don't think he would disagree with any of that. I think he's also on the page of simplifying game and not making it about writing a scene and sort of, more having an idea. I think it is the pitfall, isn't it? We all, when you try and come in with a premise, there's a much stronger protection aspect to it, that you feel a need to write it just to make sure it goes right, because we've all been in those scenes where you come in with your premise and you build it up and then you deliver it and then it just falls completely flat and then you are like, oh fuck,
you're done.
Yeah. And so
the audience loses faith.
You
have to win them back. You feel like shit. Your scene partner is like, I was trusting you and you've given me this. Everyone on the back line thinks, well, let's give them 4 more minutes to figure it out. And it's a terrible time for everybody.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the other things that I sort of go against, is the sort of intrinsicness that the voice of reason character or the person receiving the initiation cannot contribute to the scene. And it is not a true building of a scene with your scene partner, and they can't offer you anything. And they're waiting and waiting and waiting, and could be of great help to you. And that goes, for me, because the annoyance teaches that always take care of yourself. Always give yourself something to work with. Because if I take care of myself and you take care of yourself, then we're golden. We don't need to worry about each other. And so that has been something that I've always had, in that I don't need you to help me. But I think when we are looking at game and premise initiation, you're sort of like, okay, what can I do? Wait. And it's wrong if you do something wrong. You can get it wrong. I think that's the thing with improv, is that you can't get it wrong until you put all these parameters on it. And maybe that's the thing that I don't like.
Yeah, I think that is definitely, you feel that as the person stepping in with someone who you know has a initiation, you're like, okay, I shouldn't make any strong choices.
Yeah.
Which then I've noticed coaching teams when they start doing organic or like more organic type improv, that they still have that mindset, so the other person won't make choices. Yeah. And you have to be like, no, neither of you know what's going on, and it won't work unless you're both making choices from the start. Yeah. But it's quite, I guess, it's quite bad to train British people particularly to be standoffish, because we're so standoffish. We're like, we're too polite in improv. I find I'm definitely that I'm training out of myself, like being like, I don't want to, they must know what's going on. I don't want to like break whatever they're doing, but really we're all just stepping out and don't have a clue. And
they're desperate for you to do something so that they can come up with something. Like everyone's desperate for each other to make a choice, but too polite to make a choice. And therefore you're like cutting yourself off from all of the things that you could be doing. Again, I apologize. I'll quote David Pasquesi. He, in TJ and Dave's book, they have a thing that like he defines improv, and improvisation is not making something out of nothing. Improvisation is making something out of what you have commonly to hand. And that has stuck in my head, in that what we have commonly to hand is everything I've ever experienced in my life, everything I've ever thought, everything I've ever read or watched or listened to or heard or seen someone else do. What I also have to hand is my scene partner, who has all of that with him as well. So actually, we've got so much to work with. And the thing I say quite a lot is to not create, to try and not create. And that's when I said, if you remember, I was very pretentious earlier when I said I am my character and I feel my character. That kind of goes in with that, in terms of you're stepping into a character and not trying to create what they would do. But if you can set up early some base facts about your character, so if you can do the McNapey thing of taking care of yourself and giving yourself something. TJ's got a long list of things as well that are like, come in with a want, come in with a secret, come in after something's happened, come in after you've just heard something, or just give yourself something to do. you are helping yourself out in terms of allowing yourself to tap into all of your information. And so that gives you so much to work with. And it also gives you an idea about your character, about how they might react in a scene. So then it becomes your improv brain is in the background going, oh, I know I need to pick it up a little bit here. I know I'm performing and I'm on stage and I'm not Daniel Day-Lewis. But I am channeling everything through my character's point of view. And so I'm not really creating my next game move, or I'm not creating my next narrative. I'm acting how I think my character, who I've set up with this thing, might react. And that means in the moment you actually have a lot easier of a time, because you don't need to create a bunch of stuff or lists or heighten or, go and get go and randomly make a cup of tea, which is, a really helpful go-to when you've got no clue what to do. Make a cup of tea or cry are my two get out of jail cards. And so that is the way I sort of see it. And it is actually, it sounds very like complex and arty, but it's actually really simple. Because that's what I like. It's very simple. Because I'm not quick. I'm not like, I can't do jokes and and if people tag too quickly, I get confused. And if people like take other stuff to another like location, my favorite thing is a tag from something that was, my favorite thing to do is to do a tag that was something that was referenced 3 minutes ago. It's my favorite thing to do because it's taken me that long to come up with something, but the audience thinks you're an absolute genius because you remembered something from 3 minutes ago. So it's a real win-win. So that would be another bit of advice that I would give. Am I meant to be imparting advice?
Yeah, absolutely. That's
great.
Absolutely what we're doing here.
Good. Teaching.
That's really great to know, actually, because I often see something, I'm like, oh, would that be a good tag? That might be a good tag. I think about it, and I'm like, yeah, that would be a good tag, but oh shit, it's probably too late.
It's normally like a narrative detail. Like it's normally something that they mention has happened, or something that would be fun. And I think it's good if it comes after a run of like game tags, because people are a bit, okay, we get it. You're going to take them to a doctor now who'll say something, and then you're going to take them to a wedding, and then you'll take them to space. And then if you come in with like a narrative tag to the main character who like about something that happened ages ago, the audience love it because they're sick of that game run, but they remember. Like I think the audience are way smarter than we give them credit for, and are way more judgmental than we give them credit for. And I think a slight part of improv problem in terms of being a serious comedy art form, or people coming to see it without having to be convinced. Honestly, I think everybody has to be convinced to go to an improv show by somebody else, is that we don't take ourselves seriously and we present it as if, what? Could be good, could be bad. You'll never see a stand-up do that. You'll never see a stand-up come out and be like, I hope you find this funny. You could do, you might not. You'll never see a sketch group start and apologise for being there and be so grateful that you're being there. And I think we need to give ourselves the like legitimacy and the sort of confidence that we all have, because we all think we're better than stand-ups and sketch comedians because we make it up on the spot, which is more difficult. So we should just be our little dickhead, arrogant selves at the top of a show, is my opinion on how to take improv forward. Pop that on the list of rules for the new theatre, Aaron. I'll teach a hosting workshop.
That is something that I think really does need a lot of attention. I mean, I remember when I first started hosting, I thought, well, I've been improvising, I'll just improvise it. Oh no, you can't improvise it at all. It's such a different skill.
It's a completely different skill, and it's so whenever I host, I like put a lot of effort into it. I have entrance music. I have 4 bits that I know work.
Thought you didn't do bits.
4 set pieces. I don't do bits. I'm a serious improviser. I've referenced David Pasquesi so many times, Aaron. I can't believe you can't tell I'm serious at this point. I'm old school 2007 Chicago trained. Please. Not this modern UCB rubbish. Cut that. Yeah.
Yeah. What would the top thing that you would teach on a hosting course?
Honestly, it would be like, what would be the top thing I would teach on an improv?
What's one of the things?
What's one of the things? I think having a script, like knowing what you're meant to say, giving the... No, cut all that waffle. Ask me the question again.
What would you teach on a hosting course?
I've forgotten what my idea was. Where had I just got to when I did it? It was...
You said you have a script, and then you...
And then I said I had to have a script, and then do this, and then what it would be. Because I none of this is going in. I remembered somebody hosting and how much I hated it, and I thought, oh, I'll tell them not to do that. But now I can't remember what it was. We'll come back to that question.
Okay.
You can ask it later when I try and remember.
What's something else? What's another thing you would teach?
What's something I would teach?
Tell me some things you would teach. Let me say that again. What are some things you would teach on a hosting course?
I would teach self-belief. I would teach timing. I would teach stage presence. I would teach... well, you can't really teach charisma, but I think you do need charisma. I don't think just anyone can host. I think some people are better at it than others. And I think, having said all of this is what a host should be, I think there are some people who host in their unique way that make a massive impact on, a crowd that would be completely different from how I would say hosting. I'm only thinking about Luke Brown. Everything Luke Brown does when he's a host should not work, but it works because he's the most likable man in the world. The thing I remembered, I would teach people how to warm up the crowd. Nobody warms up the crowd. That is the point of a host. You need to get the crowd ready and warm and happy and laughing before you bring out your first act. So many improv groups come on cold to a cold audience, and it kills them because they have to do that. They have to get them immediately to trust them. If you're already trusting the host, then you need to build your audience, and then they can take dips. If they go in cold and your immediate thing is, a monologue, right, which is a true story, and then you go into made-up scenes, which they don't understand the difference, explain what the show is. Hosting like a Harold, either don't mention that you're going to see a Harold and it's an improv form, but you don't need to know that, my most hated phrase, or explain to them, you're going to see 3 teams come out, they're going to do some real-life monologues, and then they're going to do scenes based on those monologues. They're going to do made-up scenes based on those monologues. Please never ever say, it's all made up, can you tell? Please never say, it's all made up, apart from this bit, I've worked on this bit. Like, these are just such basic,
I think I've said all of those things.
Well, hey, congrats. Please sign up.
We've all got to learn somehow.
It's £400 for 20 minutes. I'll send you the invoice after this.
Yeah, no, I think that would be great. I also think you mentioned it earlier, the importance of a good monologue. I think monologues are so underappreciated and under-taught. I mean, we just don't teach them. I wrote a blog post actually for shinythings.com, check it out, about how to do a good monologue, because it's, for ages we're given the impression that like you should be able to pull from any monologue, and then after a while I'm like, no, sometimes it's really easy and sometimes it's so hard, and I'm not taking all the responsibility for that. No. As the person on the back line. Like, it is the person who's doing the monologue's responsibility to say things in a way, and it's not difficult. I think it's more letting yourself, it's a bit like that premise thing of like, oh, you end up writing the scene. I think the worst monologues are the ones where people like have already written it, or it's a story they've already told, and actually we just want you to ramble. Yeah,
it's their chance to do stand-up.
Yeah, exactly.
It's your chance to do stand-up. You can do stand-up elsewhere, and it's the telling of a funny story. What am I going to do with that? You've already told the funniest version of that story. You want me to do a scene about it now where the audience knows the punchline? I've got nothing to do with it. Give me an opinion. Give me a date. Give me a place. Give me, like, something that, that is good, that I can work with, an emotion, a feeling, an opinion. Charlie Sturgeon has a thing that he advises people to do. I think he does. I've got this maybe third hand, but I thought it was good and now I've stolen it. Using the phrase, I'm the type of person who. It's great. Just do that. Easy. I don't care about your mad trip to Mallorca.
Yeah. I think that's the team that we're in, Nana, do an opener where we ask each other questions, and I think that has proven to work well, because you can just ask a question that encourages the right answer.
Yeah.
And I think it is hard for people coming out to do monologues to come out and just ramble, but I think we should really teach it more.
I spend so much time on it in class. So I just finished level 4 teaching, which is Harold. And I just spend so much time on monologues. Because it's all you've got. So you need to do it well. And you can see the people who want to be stand-ups, and it's not good material, you know. Not this specific level 4 class that I've just taught, unless anyone's watching, because anyone's listening to this from that class. You were all great.
What do you like about teaching improv?
I like to see people improve. I started teaching level 1 and then went to level 3, and now I'm at level 4 because I have, as we've noted, I'm a pretentious person, and I was finding it very difficult to do level 1 and not be a real dick. Or, you know, encourage, you know, I'm not a good enough person to teach level 1 anymore, I don't think. And so I had to move up to when people were a little bit more, you know, they knew some basics. But that also means that you miss seeing true immediate talent, which is an amazing thing to see in level 1. There are some people who just come into level 1 and are like, boom, that's something. And so my now thing is that I really want to, as well as teaching like the technicals and as well as teaching the sort of structures, because by the time they, you know, get to me, they've been through 3 levels where they've been taught a lot, given a lot of information, a lot of rules. And I think that is, I like to try and simplify as much as I can and to take the stress out of it. When people get to Harold, they're so, I need to do this and this and then this, and then I have to, you know, I have to rest it, and I need to justify, but I can't explain. You know, they've got all of this stuff in their heads, and it is drowning them because they can't do a scene. And so that is where the simplifying comes in. And if you see somebody, you know, that was struggling at the beginning, then by the end of that 8 weeks is not struggling anymore, then that's great. And as is evidenced by this, I like to wang on about my thoughts on improv and tell them why I think these things and why they should think these things. And when they come on this podcast in 5 years' time, they'll be like, Jen Littlewood was the best teacher I ever had.
I imagine
she said it was Craig
audience.
Euler. It was never Craig Euler. It was Jen Littlewood.
Yeah, they'll be imagining you sitting in the audience, trying not to upset you.
That would be my dream. If I could have the fear, if I could put the fear into people the way that David Pasquesi put the fear into me of never wanting to disappoint him, that would be a well-lived life.
What's a note that you really enjoy giving?
Not to be repetitive. It's stop trying to be funny. Because, actually, I was listening to Alex's podcast that he did when he was talking about the difference between, like, being slow and trying not to be funny, but then also wanting to do big, silly shows. I don't think they are separate. I don't necessarily have to be separate. This is going to go against me saying I hate jokes, but I saw the new Naked Gun the other day, and it's just pure jokes. And I think it's a real reminder that the real joy of films like that, and like MacGruber and the original Naked Gun series and Hot Shots and things like that, is that they're big and silly and dumb, but it is taken so seriously. And it is never considered to be dumb and big and fun. It is played like so seriously. And I think there is a bit of a wrong separation between, you know, we want to be Cook County Social Club versus we want to be TJ and Dave. The two cannot coexist. The two cannot be the same. But actually, if you look at anything Tim Robinson does, he does the most absurd, over-the-top, insane things in the most serious way. And it all comes from a character point of view that is incredibly well established and built in, you know. And so I don't think they live separate lives. I think you can be big and silly and fun and take it incredibly seriously. And I think that is what the not trying to be funny thing actually is about. And I think that is where really kind of the joy lives. So I think there has been a bit of a, you know, now TJ and Dave have been to the UK and done a load of shows and everybody's seen them and everybody is now where I was many years ago. I saw them every week for like a year, every week.
Jealous.
Oh yeah. There was a guy who would film every show in the front row, and he would when I left from the first 2 weeks, he gave me a load of DVDs of other shows, and when I went back to England for that like 2 years of university, I would watch those shows over and over and over again. I could like repeat those shows. Actually, here's a good example and a great name drop. I saw one TJ and Dave show that they did as a trio with Michael Shannon, the most serious actor in the world. And it was the funniest thing I've ever seen in my life. It was incredible. And I think that is what improv is. It was just someone taking things so seriously, someone reacting honestly, someone having a character, someone having an emotional reaction to something, building on something with a scene partner, and existing in a reality and moving through that reality with certainty and confidence and like the joy of exploration. And I think that is what TJ and Dave do. I don't think they're slow, serious, dramatic improv. Some of the best TV and Dave shows are ridiculous, like are absurdly funny. I watched one where one guy was afraid of going and hated clothes shopping, so another guy went clothes shopping for him for an hour. That was the hour. It's dumb. That's a dumb premise, and you do it for an hour. And it's great, and you just find little things here and there. Yeah. I don't know if that answered the question. I can't remember what the question was.
Don't worry.
I feel like I talked for so long.
The questions are just prompts to get you to talk.
Great.
So it's absolutely fine. It's great. This is wonderful.
Oh dear.
Do you think anyone can learn to improvise well?
Yes, technically. I think you can absolutely improvise well, technically improvise well, and anyone can learn that skill. I think it requires an adherence to some principles that I think people forget really early on. And I think it requires the desire to grow and experiment and learn. Realize the hypocrisy of me having said at the beginning I've learned nothing since the first year of doing improv, but that was, that was a big bold statement to kick us off. I wanted to bring in some controversy for the start of the pod, Aaron. But I think there is that you need to have a desire and ability to accept that your first instinct is not necessarily the best instinct, and not to revert back to that at every time. You need to take on board the training and the feedback and the notes. So I think what I see is sometimes, and this is across everywhere I've been, I'm not stating London or anywhere, I think you see people who have been doing improv for 6 or 7 years, that still like pretty confident, but not super experienced. Have been doing it for 50 years or whatever, and you will know that they've been through all the training and they've done it, but that they kind of think that they're above it, that they're above the rules, and they do just what they reckon. And I think that is where people can sometimes fall down, because they've had success in seeing to it they've done that, and they've been justified in their approach, and so they just continue that no matter what they do to grow and learn. They'll say like, oh, I went to a workshop the other day and it was some great exercises and do that. And I'm going to try and do this. A month later, they're doing the same thing they were doing a month before the workshop. They're not embedding it into their like practice. And I am going to be repetitive again and reference Pasquesi again. Because he had said a thing of like the 10,000 hours thing. If you can do improv, you can do mediocre improv for 10,000 hours and you will be amazing at mediocre improv. You need to be using those 10,000 hours to continually challenge and get better and take on feedback and do that and be really self-aware. That is what I would teach everyone to be in improv, is to be self-aware. And I would teach everyone as well to be. We did Edinburgh Improv Festival this year. It was a fantastic show. I was terrible, and everyone else was great, and I was the terrible one, and that's fine. But what is unhelpful is when people are like, "No, of course not. No, that's fine. Just let me know that I was terrible." And then I went home and had a panic spiral, and I booked like three workshops. And then, was like, because this is such a like, obviously we're talking about it on a podcast, Aaron. I care about improv. And I want people to think I'm good at improv. I want people to think I'm funny. It's one of the things I'm good at. It's one of the things that I'm good at that I can do in front of people. And it gets an immediate, audible reaction if it goes well, and that feels good. You can talk about how therapeutic it is or whatever, and how much it helps you give a presentation and think on your feet. No. When people laugh at you because you've done something, especially if you've made something up, it's good. And so I was like, right, no, I'm now bad at improv. I need to do better improv. And then I would say the last few shows I've done have been good improv. Or I wasn't. Dave would have been fine. He would have been happy in that audience. And I think that's the kind of thing. I think take it seriously, recognize yourself and your limitations. And the thing I said about earlier about not having learned anything since that first year, I think that was what I'm always trying to develop the things that I've learned. Because you can't learn how to listen. You have to have continual practice at listening and active listening and apply it over and over and over again. And so that is what I mean when I sort of say like developing those core. That's what we're doing now. FA is going back to the core thing of like learn the core things, develop the core things, find out about yourself, how you best apply those core things, and keep doing it and keep doing it and keep doing it. And then it'll shift. And then you go down this route, and then that'll shift. And it's like you're sailing. I'm moving my hand back and forth in a sailing manner. You go over here, and then you turn around, and you go over there. And it's like that. And I've rambled so much, I don't know what we were talking about.
What were we talking about? We were...
teaching improv? Something like that?
Yes.
What would I teach?
That
was 4 questions ago, I think. Leave all this in. We have to leave all this in now. They have to see. I must say, it's a very slickly produced podcast, and I think that will really deceive your audience about how rambly I've been.
No, you've been
And I'm
great.
Self-aware. And I want others to know that I'm self-aware enough to know that I've talked some real shit today.
It's been great. You've talked great stuff.
Great shit. You cut a lot of this out, though.
I'll cut a fair
You'll
bit
cut a
out.
lot
Yeah,
of
I'll
this
cut
out.
a fair bit out. Not the rambly bits. They're great.
We could do a director's cut.
I'll cut the bits out where we forget what we're saying.
Yeah.
Or,
Yeah, forget the great ideas we
Yeah.
have about what we're going to teach about hosting.
You produce big festivals for your day job. How does improv help with that?
It is... I think it's been vital to every job I've had. I used to be a talent agent and have produced festivals for a long... I used to be a talent agent and would also produce people's festivals, people's Edinburgh runs, and then have done and are currently doing festivals. And and so it's a lot of people. It's a lot of organizing. It's a lot of prioritizing information. It's a lot of processing and reacting, and it's a lot of building things together. So when I was a talent agent, it was a lot of two people working together to build a career, which is back and forth, exchanging ideas. Maybe this will work, maybe that will work. Having a point of view about where that career should go, them having their own point of view, them being the unusual point of view, me being the voice of reason. Maybe it fits too well. But it also, in terms of the bare, the brass fact, I think pretty much all jobs are sales. Knowing what to sell, how to present yourself to people, having the confidence that you know that you're not gonna stumble or say something stupid, I think is one of the things that I have gotten from that. Not say your first thought, be able to filter through and see what the best choice would be. I think it's also really good for just your own confidence around people, being a people person. You have to make a lot of people like you, and being funny and amiable and sort of nice, and also unobtrusive. I think, stand-ups would probably say that their job make them likable, but they're more sort of in your face with their like, I'm funny. Having that team dynamic and that like, my job is to make you look good kind of attitude about, I'm doing this to like bring you into me rather than like show off for you, I think works very well with people. And I think knowing that no matter what goes wrong in a job, it will never be as bad as a terrible improv show. There's nothing worse in life than a terrible improv show for 24 hours until you have the next show. I would say using our Edinburgh example as a thing, I was like not good until I had a good show. I can't remember when that was until after. Maybe that one we did.
Scrimmage.
Yeah, that was a good show.
It's a really fun show.
I got to play a vampire. No, I wasn't a vampire. I was a vampire's helper. Yeah, that was fun.
It was really fun.
Yeah, I think that was my like, oh, okay, thank God. It's okay. I've not forgotten everything.
Yeah, it's a tough mental mistress, improv.
It is. It's therapeutic, but it's not therapy.
What do you think London improv needs to do to build towards the kind of setting that Chicago has had for so long?
Take itself seriously as a destination. I think the good thing that Chicago has is that it has a pedigree of, people that you can see direct action, you can see direct cause and effect. You can see Amy Poehler and Tina Fey and Stephen Colbert and Steve Carell and all of that lot, and Bill Murray and John Candy and blah, 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 all the Amy Bryant. Ugh. You can see all that on your TV. We don't have that pipeline. Stand-ups get on TV, not improvisers. In the States and in Toronto, improvisers get on TV and not stand-ups. And so, like when I was a talent agent in Toronto, I represented improvisers because they were the people who made the money. In the UK, I got to represent stand-ups because they're the people who bring in the money. They're the people who are booking jobs. And I don't see there being a shift in the UK in terms of television hiring practices. But I think so I don't think we could rely on that ever happening to help us. I don't think we're ever going to get, this new potential SNL show aside, unless that goes absolutely wild and there's a bunch of improvisers on the cast, that it is, we're never going to have that pathway. So we're never going to get that, I've seen you on that show and this is where you've come from. I think as well people don't have the interest. Like, you have to remember, like, Second City has a 70 year, Jesus, it's 20 years since I was at Second City, oh my God. 65-year heritage of stars immediately. UCB has the people that they, have grown. We don't have that and are never going to have that. And so we need to find our own way. And I think what we do have is a really strong live comedy scene and an alternative comedy scene. I think actually traditional stand-ups in London, at least, are suffering. I think we're going very, or not very alternative, but just slightly the places that are doing well are the less obvious observational comics. And I think that's what we need to tap into. We need to be like, we are as good as this. We are as weird and different and fun and interesting and surprising and could be the best night of your life. Because people going to a stand-up show or a sketch show don't know if it's going to be good either. But we tell them we don't think it's going to be good. Why would we do that? Why would we not be like, we're here, we're going to have a great time, you're going to have a great time, everything's going to be great. Let's do some fun stuff, let's go with it and do that. And I think that comes with everything. I think that comes from the tone of any advertising, the tone of sort of the tone of our communications with students and audience members, the tone of our casting of shows and programming of shows. I think, and across the board, across the improv theatres in London, what's exciting, what's new, what's different, what's interesting, what's going to grab someone and can make them convince other people to come and see it. What are we doing to go, like, we don't have that stand up, I can just put my crowd work on TikTok and become famous now pipeline, which is the new pipeline. So we do have to think a bit harder, and we do have to make it the quality that it is what I think. And it just has to be really good. Has to be really good, I think that's the thing, is like, a famous comedian, an audience will give 5 minutes. If they're still not being funny after 5 minutes, they will treat you like any other stand-up. We're not famous. We have to be good from the get-go. Hence, get the audience to trust. If you lose their trust, you lose the audience, and they'll go.
And that doesn't mean you have to be funny immediately.
No. It means you need to make them know that you will be, or that you'll be interesting, or that you'll give them something that is worth watching. I think that's the other thing I have a real issue with, is people putting on shows and charging money and it not being, and them not putting the effort into, this is someone who's paid money to do this, to come and see this, and you are treating it as if it's going to be shit, and they've spent 10 quid to come out, which is a lot of money nowadays. Could have got a delivery. No, you couldn't have even got a delivery. But I think that's it. Yeah. I've knocked the table, Aaron.
That's fine. What do you like to do when you're not working or improvising?
I like to... God, what do I do with my life? I've done so much. I've been so busy. But what am I doing with my time? I'm trying to get into... I'm trying to be... Or what I want to be is, like, I've moved to West London, and I want to be a really, like, grotesque elder millennial bougie. Like, I want to go to Pilates and have a green juice and come back to candles and empty vases in my room, and you're sitting in my flat with my sort of terracotta walls and my
gorgeous.
Thank you so much. My West Elm furniture. I want to. That is what I enjoy. I enjoy, like, that, creating that, like, because I've moved around. I've moved around so much, and I don't think I've ever settled really. And I like that. And then, I also like wrestling. I love wrestling. It's kind of like improv, but yeah, I've met 2 wrestlers. I've met a lot of very famous people. I do not care. I met 2 wrestlers. I met Bret the Hitman Hart and Dave Bautista. I lost my shit. I saw Jedward on the train the other day. Won a Jedward. It was amazing. Lost my shit at that too. Maybe it's wrestlers and Jedward. But I love wrestlers. And I think if I met... my ultimate would be Stone Cold Steve Austin. If I ever met Stone Cold Steve Austin, I work on a film festival. If there is ever a film with Stone Cold Steve Austin in it, I want it. We had John Cena in the building the other day, and his personal security guy for the night was somebody I know, and he told me, and then I was like, I think I should leave, and he's like, yeah, I don't want to have to, I don't want to have to tell you to leave, but you should probably leave. I was like, yeah, that's fair. So yeah, I love wrestling, and I watch that. And I might try paddle, because that's bougie, right? Might try paddle and do that. Makes me sound like I read books, I watch TV, I watch movies. I hang out with my friends.
Sounds like a dating profile now.
You know, it really is. You know, like this week I went to the theatre, and then I did an improv rehearsal, and last night I went to a quiz, and tonight we're doing this, and tomorrow I'm going to watch Twin Peaks, and then on Saturday I'm going to play paddle, and then go to the theatre, and then go to someone's wedding. I do all that. Yeah. I'm a very busy lady, which means I can't write a sketch or write stand-up and have to just do improv.
Are you playing anything at the moment on your PlayStation?
No, I started replaying Last of Us 2 and have stopped because I want to skip it and just get to after it. I won't say it out loud, but people will know what we're talking about if they know what we're talking about. I want to skip it and just get to after it, but I haven't figured out how to do that on the settings. I think I just skip the cinematic thing.
They just released a version that's updated it, which you can play the whole thing chronologically. So that thing happens much later.
Oh, well, but I know it was coming. I don't know whether it's better to get it over with. I mean, he is the love of my gaming life. I have been known to send you pictures of screenshots where he looks hot on a horse. We're talking about Joel Miller. And I feel like it's unfair that that's a fictional man. But yes, it's...
what is it about him that you think makes him so hot?
I think he would love improv. No. It's all the things that probably, you know, he cares for... He's deeply caring. He is capable. He is protective. He is a murderer. He is can ride a horse. Can do like construction. You know, is like deeply, deeply broken inside. Has really sad eyes and great forearms. Got lovely taste in like plaid shirts. Is great. You know, he's kind of the guy who's like mean to everyone but soft to you. A real well-developed character, which is what I try to bring to improv. Just pick one of those, and that's the game of your scene.
And on that note, Jen Littlewood, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Shiny Things podcast. Don't forget to head over to shinythingscomedy.com for loads more improv-related posts, where you can sign up to our newsletter so you get all of our new content straight to your inbox. Until next time, I've been Aaron Blackton. Happy improving.